the fact that I forgot to actually boot up the game beforehand. Gotta do that now. It all worked out. It's okay. Oh, that is so loud. Okay, where's the sound settings? I completely forgot what this game was about. But this looks cute. Alright. Share screen. Okay.
Share screen.
Did you see the stream title?
Okay. I'm gonna get popped up yet. There it is. Yeah. Yeah, this color's in moving city while Molly is moving her modem trying to get the Wi-Fi to work.
I speak only the truth.
There you go.
I forgot to go online.
That's scripted. Alright.
Okay. This actually still is very loud. Where's the options?
Settings.
A very upbeat music too. Okay. How do I pronounce that? Nice art though. Oh my god, Torps, how do you think that's pronounced?
No, I don't know. Make a guess. Just go with it.
I don't know why this is so hard for me.
You know, just syllables.
They're not. I accidentally. Where's the logs?
Where's the log?
History. Okay.
History.
Oh my god, I can't think of how to pronounce
I
it.
so much with this one word.
I don't know why. I'd feel less weird if it was a real word.
It's a made-up word, so you can make up however you want to pronounce it.
Chanus? Let's go with that.
Yeah, sure.
Chanus had many names. It was the marching state. It was the town of transients. Most simply called it the moving city. And it was here where a woman named Maggie made her work. Maggie was a postman, and thus had many different responsibilities. That's a very pretty text box.
Yeah.
I like all the grit here. Gritty texture, very good. Wish I was good at that.
That's pretty art.
Presently, it was to deliver a dwindling bundle of letters in a bag which she carried. Trivial task were this not to be done in the moving city. After all, it would be a poor nickname if the buildings did not all walk and wheel and limp and scamper about all on their own. Wow, kinda terrifying. Your house is literally a golem. As such, there was no fixed city plan. There was no main walkway or artery. There were no streets, or permanent ones anyway. So one had to turn their eyes up, which is what Maggie did, and this was how one navigates a city. Above the homes and the shops fluttered each a set of flags to indicate what is where and who lives where there. I'm really distracted staring at the art. My eyes just can't look away from the gritty textures. Is a good thing. But anyway, Maggie stood in a square. The stones beneath her foot remained in place in spite of the rumbling beneath her, and beside her, and all about her visible radius. Buildings shifted and lumbered forward and to the left and to the right, as some lagged behind and changed position so as to not crash into another. From where she stood, she had a decent enough view of the place. There she remained, not wholly out of fatigue, but because she was looking for the flags to which she must deliver her remaining few letters. She squinted at the heights for a glimpse of her targets, keeping the contents of her satchel firmly in her mind. 2. Home with red flag with lion upon it, moving city. 2. Shop, green checkered flag, take sign over door, the news or moving city. 2. House, blue red flag, black door, moving seat. 2. Home, mauve flag over a green flag, moving city. She blew a bit of air out of her nose, but one of her job functions was to deliver these letters. Certainly, she wasn't expected to know the name of every color of the rainbow. So Maggie happened on a passerby and asked, "Pardon me, sir." The man froze. It was not the sight of the postman that stopped him, but her race. Plainly, Maggie was not human. Her pointed ears, tall stature, and feathered head pointed Maggie as one of the vain, so she smiled at the man and maintained her distance. "I'm having a small difficulty with some deliveries. Would you mind telling me what color mauve is?"
Mauve?
The man took a half step backward, as if he were making to run off somewhere. When he saw the vein give no reaction, he appeared to give that up. Either she would catch up to him, or she posed no threat.
It's kinda pink-purple, or light purple maybe. You're looking for...
He stopped himself. He was old, so it was entirely possible he was a war veteran, and the scars of those who lived history would always be fresher than those who did not. What the heck is he remembering over the color mauve? Oh, okay. So the sight of a vanquished postman before him was equally ridiculous as it was terrifying. Yet he continued.
I never really liked her anyway. Thinks real highly of herself.
Is mauve the name of a person in addition to a color?
Hmm?
Does she now?
She's got a green flag too, so look for that. It's a plain green, and then you'll see that mauve flag, or whatever she calls that nonsense. I have places to be, so I'm leaving.
That's not very helpful. Also, there's like a billion shades of green. And plain green isn't one of them. He thanked him for his time and looked again at the roofs of the buildings. Soon enough, her target appeared to her between a four-legged tower and a squat wheeled home with many windows. The occupants were already lowering bridges between the buildings. This was the other tricky part of being a postman in the moving city. A bridge could be many things. Therefore, when Maggie saw her path must cross two loosely forge-welded metal mosaics, she steeled herself and got on with the business of advanced level walking. Wow, that's a lot of words. Each step produced a different creak, an almost musical effect that may have delighted her, were the earth not rushing by 12 feet below. She felt the impulse to look down. Though in crossing only halfway, she saw the only thing keeping the bridge moored to the other end were a couple of sacks of flour. No, she thought, this is not a bridge. This is an ordeal. When the square behind her shook and in turn rattled the bridge, she voted immediately to sprint the remaining 10 feet. Her boots rattled the bridge, with each pounding step, shaking the flour bags bit by bit, bit by bit, bit by bit. She arrived. Maggie took only a moment to steady her nerve and allow a moment for her knees to cease their quivering. As she calmed herself, she thought to exact a fine on the owner of this plot of land, the builder of this bridge, for endangering the lives of any who thought to cross. She even thought to kick the bridge over the side, for the betterment of everyone. Of both thoughts she entertained neither, and instead reset the sacks of flour to stabilize the path some, and she continued on quickly. The woman found her target soon enough, and with little further trouble. There was the green flag. There was the ink purple flag above it. And that was all the verification she required after risking her life. Typically, she would ask the recipient for some sort of identification, as it was her job as postman to confirm people are who they say they are. It was her job as well to check up on them and investigate ill-goings-on and apprehend criminals and their dealings at her discretion. But this time, she merely wanted to be done with her deliveries so she could pound back a tall mug of ale and relax. So she dropped the delivery in a little letterbox by the door, and that was the end of it. Now remained 3 letters. Wow, we're playing an Amazon delivery person.
Yeah, postman.
She found the shop with the green checkered flag first, which turned out to be a pub, and she made a mental note to visit them later, bidding them luck that the letter was not a bill. She found the house with the blue red flag and the black door next, and the recipient was a rather crotchety old woman who threatened violence upon the man who wrote the letter. She requested Maggie stick around a moment while she wrote her reply that she did not, in fact, owe the man any money, and that it was a bet made over 30 years ago, so it was past time to let that go. I don't know. The old woman made sure to spit into the envelope before handing it to Maggie. Wow, gross. We have to touch that. Her letter rivaled the previous as an exercised atrocity of penmanship, made worse by the haste in which she had written the thing, and the gob of spittle that had begun to leak through. Yeah, I knew that would happen. That's why don't spit in your mail. Gross.
Gross.
Maggie reminded her to attach the proper postage, and she headed off with directions, all the while keeping watch for the final home. The postman dropped off the damp envelope without ceremony, or without so much as a knock on the door. Best not to get caught up in this mess, she thought. Yeah, that's right. He's gotta spit in your face, I swear. But then, there was the final letter. It had been hours and its owner was nowhere in sight. She checked the address again. Red flag with lion upon it. Nothing of the sort appeared to her. Maggie found a high plaza surrounded by a dense cluster of buildings, most of which moved by mechanical leg. She watched for a moment. It was a small wonder none of them stepped on one another or tripped over another's legs. Rather, it was more like an intricate dance than a group of homes and businesses marching aimlessly through the desert. From her vantage point, she had a better view of the city. Certainly, there were red flags. Most appeared plain, and of the remainder, none appeared to be the one she sought. Was it possible the house had fallen behind? They all seemed tethered to one another, moving together as a school of herrings. Perhaps, she giggled to herself, a larger house had eaten it. "Excuse me, miss." Maggie caught the attention of a woman passing by. "I'm looking for a home with a red flag that has a lion on it."
Afraid I don't know the one, sorry.
I like how she has a flag growing above her head, and there's a bee following it. Very stylish. She marched on her way, so Maggie found another person. "Sir, could you help me find someone?"
I'm in a hurry, postman.
Nice hair.
Will this take long?
"I'm looking for a house with a red flag that should have a lion on it."
Can't help you. Good day. Walks away.
And this continued for the greater part of an hour. It seemed none knew or cared to let slip where the house might be. Maggie even considered covering her feathers and hiding her ears, as if that were the source of the problem. Though it was more likely the people around her simply did not know. This was a city, after all. Who could keep track? Who memorized the numbers of buildings on a lane? So she switched tactics and put on her thief-taker's demeanor. She put her hand to her sword and stalked the first person she saw. Wait, is this scare tactics? "Sir, I need to speak with you for a moment regarding a case." What the heck? What do you mean?
Stands ominously.
A postman's job was not just to deliver parcels and correspondence. A postman's job was not... Oh, wait, that for some reason that disappeared and then reappeared. Okay. There were guards and hundreds of criminals, and could even be called on as militia. What kind of... what world is this?
Can you imagine if your Amazon delivery person was like...
Armed delivery persons, yes.
What's your house? Have you heard about the case recently?
As such, each postman carried a sword at their waist. She drew her weapon on the man for a bit of intimidation, better to play the part of a mildly unhinged lawbringer. The man's eyes widened and he stopped everything he was doing. A home has gone missing lately, and I suspect something odd afoot. Do you know anything of the sort?
A home missing? No, not that I can recall. I mean, there was that one house a couple of days ago that broke down.
The house broke down?
It was just a small one, you know? And so other people, they tried helping her out. Must have been a bad furnace or something, so the people offered to help, and she just didn't say anything. She looked like she'd lost a big bet. Eventually, she told everyone to back off, and that was the end of it. That's all I know.
Did this house have a red flag?
What? I don't know, maybe. I don't remember that well.
She slackened her stance and nodded to let him leave. If this was indeed the place she was looking for, she would need to hire a carriage to backtrack the city's path. While the city plodded along, it was not so slow that her task would not take hours longer. This was proving far more difficult than it needed to be. Maggie resolved to transfer out of the city once this last delivery was done.
I feel like whatever this postal system they got going on is not optimal for a city that walks. Like, didn't they have like a different department that deals with the homes left behind? Pretty long trip.
But she would again be taking Vale further from her home. She was distracted for a moment, thinking of the young girl that traveled with her. Vale had followed Maggie around for at least a month now, and she was beginning to wonder if the girl was at all homesick, or even thought to write her family. But that was a question for when she was around. And so, Maggie found another poor pedestrian to interrogate and set about looking for her charge. I don't know why there's a sea cucumber on the hill. I'm not even sure that's a sea cucumber. This is like a fictional setting.
Some sort of fantasy critter.
We found Vale in a crowded plaza, entrancing a small group with magic and parlor tricks. She would, briefly, conjure up a glowing pale light about her fingers, and then, once the interest of the crowd was locked, place her hands together and pretend to separate her thumb from her hand.
Ah, yes, classic.
One of the group gasped while the remainder clapped, dropping small coins in a wicker basket nearby. Once they were gone, Vale huffed, but upon seeing Maggie approach, she brightened right up. How'd it go? They looked impressed. Would have impressed even my family.
I did the glowy thing with my hand and pretended to remove my thumb. Before that, I pretended to float. Did you see how impressed with my magic they were? And they dropped a whole bunch of coins into the basket. I think it's like that thing where you throw flowers at a play.
It's a version of that, yeah.
So I guess you could say I'm getting better with this magic stuff, don't you think?
I think so. Maybe a traveling magician will take you on as an apprentice. Vale puffed up a bit in pride, turning her head to hide the blush.
You shall have to wait. I'm on a mission. Anyway, all done?
Not quite. You have to hire a carriage for the last one. Apparently houses can break down, and for some reason, the lady who lives in the house wished not for help. So we have now a several hours ride ahead of us. Vale flicked a few coins out of her basket like they were ants on a pastry. She then took the basket and followed Maggie. The pair crossed several bridges to a ferry service, which Maggie had located earlier. They found the shop owner, and at once Maggie flashed her postman's badge. He bade them follow downstairs to a low balcony, where they saw a trio of carriages each hooked up to a craggy stone golem.
But I guess even transportation is golems in this world. And please, see puns. Too easy.
The golem stood idle like a large statue staring into the receding horizon with no apparent sentience. The shop owner scribbled something on a piece of paper, unhinged the skull cap of one of the golems, flipped the notes inside, and closed it up. Wow, that's kind of disturbing. Just imagine if, in order to make your horse run, you had to decapitate it.
Actually, insert instructions.
Soon the golem shivered to life, and Maggie and Vale boarded the cab, and they set off.
How do they move? Supposedly magic. Magic and written instructions. It's like a fantasy version of science.
As they sat, Vale took out a small field guide and flipped quickly to a specific page, showing it to Maggie.
Did you remember to ask anyone if they've seen this flower?
She turned her book of horticulture to face the postman, pointing to a long-stemmed flower with little bell-shaped blossoms which hung as if they were wilting. There was next to it a cutaway diagram of the flower, and a picture of its leaves, about which were scrawled notes in some human dialect Maggie could not read. Stock footprint sounds. No one's heard of it that I could tell.
Mom says they're found to the east, but she's only got a faint reckoning of exactly where. Mayhaps we're not far enough.
Could be. And that reminds me, Vale. Have you written your family yet? Vale was silent and turned to her book. You know it's no good going so far and so long without even a word you're alright. They'll be worried about you. Vale buried her face in the book now, and Maggie elected to drop the matter. It had been several weeks since she had contacted her own family. Perhaps it was hypocrisy of her to press Vale into it.
I've been on lots of journeys. Mom knows I'm okay. And Dad's not all worried. I've been away from home lots of times.
The girl set her book down, though she continued to stare at its pages.
I just don't think I'm yet good enough at writing letters. Does that make sense?
I feel like we're missing so much context for this world that they're in. Like, what deeper meaning is there to writing letters? Is this related to the golems?
A little. Maggie smiled and turned to look at the landscape rolling slowly by. Already, the clatter and thump of the city began to fade.
Now you hold your sword.
Maggie started awake. Was I asleep?
I think so. Oh?
I'm sorry?
Can I hold your sword? Do all postmen carry these?
All postmen do carry these, yes, but we cannot permit anyone other than a postman to carry them. It's an insult to the uniform, for one. I could get in trouble for another, and you could hurt yourself.
I'll be careful.
Sorry, Vale. No.
I'll bet you use it all the time.
Yeah, I just used it on some guy to intimidate him. Yeah, several times, yes. Mostly to encourage people to make wise decisions. Stars seemingly appeared in the young girl's eyes.
Have you ever fought?
She toned her voice down low, as if the next word might conjure up something evil.
Monsters?
Once. Vale dropped her book to the floor.
Oh.
It was a difficult day I struggle well to forget, and I think best not repeated outside some very thick walls. And after many drinks, she muttered to herself.
I wouldn't be afraid of monsters. If I was you, you'd scare them away before they even got in sword distance.
Yeah, Skull, she literally pulled it out on some guy earlier and, like, intimidated him into telling her where her house was because she had to deliver a letter. It was very intense.
Maggie looked out the window, hoping Vale would find something else to ask about. And Vale then startled herself with the realization.
I just remembered I got these earlier.
She produced some little hand pies and handed two to Maggie. Those are yummy.
One's sweet and one's not. I'm eating the sweet one first. It's got the seeds on top.
Maggie started the opposite way and found it was filled with a jam of bacon and onion, with a bit of potato here and there. Her stomach was quite out of room before she was half finished with the pie.
Will all of English become postmen?
I have not seen many, though there may be a complicated reason behind it. Vale left it at that and tucked into her second pie.
How old do you all really get?
Wow, Vale. Asking the real questions here. The real rude questions.
Rude.
Also sword charisma in quotation marks +7. Yeah. That's how it works.
I'm not certain. No one really told me. Do you know how old humans get?
No, but I hear they get older.
Perhaps I'll find out.
So how much farther are we to this last house?
Can't say. I just know how to follow the trail back until we hit it. It broke down 2 days ago, so I've gathered, and judging by how fast the city moves, we'll approach it in a couple of hours.
Do the houses break down a lot?
Some do. Usually the community seems to come together to get them up and running, but this person didn't want help for some reason.
Maybe they thought they could fix it themselves. I broke my dad's favorite shovel once.
Yeah, this is a visual novel that I don't remember much about, because we downloaded a bunch of games off of Itch.io, and we're just slowly playing through them. I forgot this game even looked like this. Tribes.
Oh. I didn't know you changed the text. He said he could fix it, but I told him I would do it. And so I broke it, and it's my responsibility to make it right. That's what he taught me.
Vale beamed in pride, remembering the hated lesson. Did you fix it?
I broke it more, so I got him a new one. But it's fine, since he likes the new one better. Maybe we should help this person fix their house.
So we break it and get her a new one?
Well, no. I think because the houses are run by magic, and that I can fix them by magic, right? If I try to fix a non-magic thing by magic, then it explodes.
I'm wondering how she's fixing things.
And I thought her magic was
Pretending, like magic tricks, not actual magic.
He does magic.
Yeah, I really like the aesthetics of this game. It's very, very pretty. I really like the rough textures.
I don't think a magical house will explode.
Maybe it'll explode extra hard. Let's hope not. They had thus passed in silence. Val had fallen asleep some minutes ago, and Maggie was finishing her second pie, which she guessed was filled with dates and was as rich as the first had been. Yeah, you know, that's how it's a good hand pie. They're supposed to be filling. She decided it was a poor idea to let Vale choose lunch. Even still, in spite of her overfull stomach and sore backside from hours of sitting, Maggie was content. The red rocks and wiry vegetation that crept by were calming, and so was the knowledge that she would soon be finished with her job. So Maggie hummed a tune to herself, and before long, Vale stretched and groaned.
What's that? What's that song?
It's a marching tune.
Did you learn that in the army?
Maggie let out a small laugh. You'll ever guess at how old I am, Vale. And besides, one of my commanding officers taught it to me.
Do you know the words?
I do, but I'm afraid it would make for poor listening. Vale grumped at the Venlish woman and said,
You're far too serious, Maggie.
Maggie felt a little hurt, so she turned back to the window and sighed. She sang slowly this. Oh my god.
I don't know if I want to try to sing this. I don't know, because I don't know the melody.
I'm just gonna read it. From Barker's cry heard in the square, to any able lad who dare, for noble cause and hearty pay, over the hills and far away. O'er the hills and round the fanes, from comely shore to farther bay, our king commands and we obey, over the hills and far away. This is a marching song, alright. From home to fire, through smoke and spell, Companions all around me fell, for kin and king and country way, over the hills and far away. And as she sang the chorus once more, Belle pulled out a little notebook and scribbled the words as quick as she could. For 90 days and maybe more, we met the foe at every ford. No bitter end we see today, over the hills and far away. Belle was writing in a mad fury and seemed to catch by the time Maggie had finished the chorus again. Of many battles have we seen, to find our sovereign's head a-cleaved. Our lords are fled, our king is slain, over the hills and far away. Actually, no, this isn't like a nationalism song. What is the content of this?
It's a marching song.
Usually you don't talk about your monarch dying. I thought marching songs are usually supposed to pump you up, not remind you that your king's dead. Kind of weird. Over the hills and gone away, through sodden field and salted plain, now Queen commands and we obey, over the hills and far away. Here Maggie's voice cracked, and she held back the next lines. Indeed, she turned back to the window in embarrassment, ceasing to sing or even speak further.
You were right, Maggie. That was a bit sad. Is that how the war with the Vane went? Is that why all the older folk are so cross with you?
Roughly.
And people are fools. You weren't there, were you? And it isn't like it was your fault all the battles and stuff didn't go the way they should have.
Maggie kept quiet, searching for words. I don't know what happened there with my mouth. Perhaps it doesn't matter. Anyway, we've arrived. The carriage halted and Maggie groaned out of her seat, stretching her back once she set boot upon the dusty earth. Evening waned on a lone house partly listed into the red dirt. About it was planted many small succulents and desert plants in the early stages of cultivation. And up top, a red flag fluttered in the cooling air, and there was a lion on it, and it's a very cute lion.
A cute line. We're just going to turn back around, aren't we?
Yes, but I think I'll check up on this person. We at least deserve to know the face of one for whom we've traveled far to see, wouldn't you agree? Vale nodded and followed along, only to become distracted by a flowering cactus. She took out her notebook and started to sketch the flower as Maggie knocked on the door. There was a soft voice from inside which answered, and when the woman inside finally opened the door to face her, Maggie's heart iced over. Who is this?
Who's this?
I don't know. If only Mally was here, and not dying
wow.
with modem problems.
I've voiced all the NPCs so far. Maybe you take a one. You take this one.
I have a feeling she has a lot of dialogue though. And I'm dead already from reading all the. There's so much writing in this.
Fine. I guess this game does have a lot of narration in it.
So much.
Lots of narration. So much narration. Okay then. Maggie!
Val looked up from her distraction to see a human woman embracing Maggie. If she's human, why is her skin pink? I've combined the words skin and pink. I said spink.
Pink.
The vain woman was too shocked to respond at first, but when she had back her senses, she returned the hug. Vale approached the pair, and they separated. The human woman looked up at Maggie, committing her face to memory.
Maggie?
Oh, Vale, this is my sister, Amarella. Wait, your sister? Why are you two different races? Amarella nodded at the young girl. And this is Vale. She travels with me.
You're not a Vane.
The woman paid no heed to Vale's comment.
I was only to have a light dinner tonight, but I'm open for a change, and I've a little keg of some Benlish ale. I've long sought an excuse to tap. Tell me, you two.
Maggie hesitated, holding one of her arms and shifting her weight between each leg.
That won't do. Maggie, I insist.
Fine, but first. Maggie whipped out her final letters of the day, all addressed to Amarella, who took them with a curtsy.
Will the postman be asking how my day has gone?
Amarella.
Fine, fine. will be my delivery changes. Expect nothing interesting to open, I'm sure.
She seized Maggie's wrist and dragged her inside. Vale followed as if she were a shadow. That's a nice furnace. Very nice and square. They entered the home. The floor was level in spite of the slight angle of the house from the outside. A nice bee on the wall there. Or a bee-looking thing. There was a large hearth at the far end of the main room, where the makings of an evening's fire lay just unlit. There was a small table by the hearth, and only a single intricate chair sat there. The table itself was covered in plant clippings and several half-full earthen pots, which Amarella quickly swept away, leaving the tabletop bare. They left Maggie and Vale there and hustled into the kitchen, calling out to them.
Do make yourselves comfortable. I'll be but a moment.
And indeed, she was out quite soon, with a couple of boards of some sausages and a wheel of cheese. She then set them upon the table, while Vale found herself a tall box to sit upon, scooting it up to the table.
Maggie, light the fire, please.
Maggie. Oh, okay. I don't know why we have a choice here. I thought this was like a kinetic novel. I didn't even know we had choices.
Which character to talk to?
I don't even know why this is the choice. This is a strange place to split off a path.
Yeah. Well, one voice idea the other.
I don't understand why I need to make a choice here.
Maggie can only pay attention to one person at a time.
Just like in real life, okay. For me. Maggie grabbed the flint and steel from the top of the hearth and knelt down to begin her assigned task. She of course had the fire going in little time. Amarella nodded in appreciation. So Amarella sliced the sausages, humming to herself a tuneless song.
I presume to be your last stop of the day, I take it?
You are.
What a wonderful coincidence this is.
That honestly seems pretty sketchy. I had no idea you had left home. Mother and father did not reveal this to me.
It is a recent change and one which has proved most satisfactory. I must say. I've forgotten the beer. One moment.
Amarella wiped her hands on her dress and pattered off in another room.
He seems happy.
In spite of her situation, yes.
I think she missed you.
Yes, well, I did too. I think I'll write to my family tonight. It was then that Amarella arrived with a small keg, humming while she set it sideways upon an upturned crate. She hurried back into the kitchen and soon returned with the spigot and wooden mallet. She set the spigot against a disc of cork which stuck out from the face of the keg. Taking the mallet, she struck the spigot to drive it into the keg. It took several whacks and a little beer spilled onto the floor, but that was an unavoidable casualty. My father disapproved your experience with such a task.
Was he who taught me, Maggie, but that was after you went off to your postman's training. Oh, but I jest. Some men in Chanus taught me the craft. I tended a bar for some weeks until my little exile.
From some place, Amarella produced a trio of mugs. 2 she filled near to the brim, but for the 3rd she addressed Vale.
And for the young lady?
Also give her beer.
Fine Venlish ale!
Amarella paused a moment and looked to Maggie. Just a bit to taste.
Indeed.
So Amarella dripped a bit of the keg into the final mug and handed it off to Vale. She took the mug with both hands in reverence and awe of the ruby-red liquid within.
Thou was always on about the legendary Venlish ale.
And she took a sip. And she took a gulp. And she screwed up her face and set down the mug in disappointment, which had Maggie and Amarella laughing. They clapped together their mugs and took a long drink each, and each set down their mug with a satisfied sigh. I needed that.
And English beer is disgusting. It is a taste developed with age, both for the beer and the one who drinks it.
You're here. She raised her mug and Amarella obliged, and the sisters finished their drinks, though Maggie was only just the soonest. I don't know what that means.
Do refill those then, and I shall get something more palatable for the young lady.
Amarella wandered back to the kitchen and returned with a jug of some red juice and poured a bit for Vale, topping it off with a little bit of ale.
Good luck.
In this form, Vale found the drink much more agreeable. It was a little sweet and tasted much less of the yeasty, fizzy brew she'd had earlier. And then Amarella took a seat at the table, continuing to slice the summer sausages she had brought in, while Maggie went in quickly for a bit of cheese.
How is the life of a postman? You delivered some particularly important correspondence of late?
I do not read these letters, Amarella, but there have been some of a less private mind, though the people with loose tongues tend to be given the least important or interesting information.
If they're superior. Did you know she fought bandits once?
The news snapped up all of